here. All right, excellent. Thank you so much for joining me, and I want to get into this straight away. So just make sure that we are sharing the screen. I want you to have a look at the presentation and hit that button, and away we go. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me on this one. And yeah, apologies for I'm still getting used to these sort of how this all works on LinkedIn Live. But yeah, great that you could join me. I've got 20 minutes with you, so I've got quite a lot I want to get through. And today it's all about stakeholders. And so where this fits in the overall, goals and ambitions of being a project manager and working on projects, being a project professional, an engineer, is that the ultimate collective goal is for us to deliver more successful projects, more projects successfully. And there are these three core pillars of project success. And that's how we interact with our teams, that's how we interact with our stakeholders, and of course, we want to be able to bring the best of ourselves into the project as well. So the part of this three core pillars that we're looking at today are the stakeholders, how we interact with the stakeholders. And today it's all about, this is the third part, the third module of this core pillar, which is to lead up and out. Now, I just wanted to emphasize that this session that we're going through today will only truly work to its maximum potential when you've been able to first build trust with your stakeholders and reconcile the perspectives of all of your different stakeholders in order to then be able to lead up and out, which is what we're talking about today. Now, before we get into the hard truths, the sort of context that we're looking at is that, yeah, well, the hard truths, because we're working in an environment where it's managing stakeholders or working with stakeholders, leading stakeholders is a completely different animal to working with your teammates or working with, your contractors or your consultants. You don't have, with your stakeholders, you don't have that same authority. You don't have that position within the organizational hierarchy, or you don't have that specific contractual obligation. So that's what this is all about. And the first things that the first hard truth that we experience on our projects is that we're dealing with stakeholders that are quite often just missing in action. You undertake your initial interaction with them, you talk about what the project involves, you try and understand their side of the perspectives, get to know them a little bit more, and then you set them on their way with the expectations, and you walk away on your path, go back to your project team, and what you find is that when you need their interaction, they're quite often distant from the project. They're difficult to get hold of, and you could be forever chasing these stakeholders and wasting so much of your time and your team's time when you could be progressing and developing. I know that this is a true experience. This is certainly my experience, and this also reflects the experience of so many project managers and engineers in our engineering and construction industry. Now, do you resonate with this? And the other problems that we get with some of these stakeholders is that when they do eventually come on board and you're able to get in touch with these stakeholders, is that they can be completely out of touch with where your project has progressed to. And they introduce, they have been in their own isolated world, away from the project, coming up with all sorts of ideas through abstract thinking of their own, without your involvement. And so when they do make their contribution, they're not up to speed with where they're at, but they are impacting with their ideas and their thoughts in how things can be done differently. Now, we all know how this impacts on our projects, don't we? The other part to this is that when we're interacting with our stakeholders and they're remote or removed from our projects, and we're not completely aligned or detected with them, connected with them, then they're going to come in and bombard you with all of their demands. They're going to be uncoordinated interactions that they're going to be sending your way. And they're going to be complaining a lot about, why their points of view aren't being taken seriously enough, or you're not paying enough attention to their needs. And of course, in circumstances like that, they can quite easily go up to your superiors and complain to them, completely undermining your position in this project. And over the long term, you're going to be personally ground down by all of this uncoordinated approach and difficult stakeholders to deal with. And of course, your project suffers the consequences too, and that gets ground down in reaching any sort of level of performance that you really want to get to. You're not getting the momentum that you want. So often you can get stakeholders that set your project. You think you're going one step forward, but actually a stakeholder coming in half-cocked can set the project back. But there is a way. There's another way of looking at this, and this is what you need in order for you to be more successful in leading your stakeholders. And what we're dealing with here is when you do get this right, you're going to have stakeholders who are really highly engaged in the project that you're working in. They're going to have a clear understanding on where they fit within the whole of the process. They're going to have a better understanding of your interactions and shared expectations on this project. They're going to be motivated, they're going to have their finger on the pulse, and they're going to be more responsive, going to feel like they're really participating in this project. They've got a key part to play. And when you do get this right, you're going to have stakeholders who are more tuned into where you're at with the project. They're going to be aligned and dovetailing their actions in with yours. So there's going to be more realistic ways of working together and reaching the outcomes because there's a shared understanding. So you're able to work together a whole lot more effectively. And the other thing that you want when you do get this right is that you're not going to be bombarded or having all of these left field problems that are being launched into your project by unruly or uncoordinated interactions from your stakeholders. There's going to be more balanced participation. They're going to be more able to effectively work with you directly or the most appropriate person. And they're going to be making a productive contribution. Now, that's the sort of stuff that we want when we're working with stakeholders. And it's achievable. It really is achievable. We just need to understand that we've got to adopt the right skills, the right mindsets, and the right tools to be able to do this effectively. And in the long term, you're going to be able to propel your project. The performance of your project is going to be so much more, it's going to be more productive. The interactions that you're having with your stakeholders are going to be, a much better level of interaction and more direct to the point without too much of the sorts of rework that many projects suffer at the hands of stakeholders. So more efficient projects, saving so much time and so much money and delivering a better quality as well in your projects. Now I want to quickly talk, when we're working with our clients and who are in the implementation program itself, we give them 5 key principles with all the anecdotes and all of the case studies that we're able to support and nourish the information that we provide. But I'm just going to give you 3 right now because we've only got a short amount of time together. So the first key principle is this. If you think you're going to win, if you think that your stakeholders are just because, you've called them and you've told them about your project, that they're going to be giving you their undivided attention whenever you want it. Well, if you think that, then that's just never going to work out. Because in their own admission, in a survey carried out by the Project Management Institute, stakeholders fully, openly admit, well, at least 61% of them say that they do continue to struggle to apply enough of themselves on the projects where they're required. And what does this, in their world, what you've got to understand is that, we're not the only thing. I mean, this is an obvious thing to say, right? We're not the only thing that's in their world. And we're probably not the most important part of their world either. So they're going to be, managing all sorts of their own projects. They've got to look after their own job. They're working with their own organisation. They've got their own demands and their own stresses and strains and priorities that they want to be focusing on. So who knows what they're like actually in their own world? But the impacts are felt, they're true and real that we feel on our projects. Our projects can take a step back. We've been through some of the harsh truths of some of the stakeholders that we deal with and the impacts, the real tangible impacts that these have on our projects. But they fall short of our own expectations. And quite often, so many engineers and managers, they get frustrated and they direct that frustration directly at some of these stakeholders without fully understanding what's going on in their world. And then we criticize them and we blame them. And this is the point that frustrates me the most, is when project managers or engineers, they throw their hands up in the air and they say, well, it's completely outside of my control. I just can't do any more than what I've already done. But that's the wrong way about it. That's where doing the wrong thing has gone too far. So what we need is the ability, the skills, the competence to be able to win their attention. And we talk about this in the implementation program, the Project Samurai implementation program. Now, the second key principle, well, this stems from a statistic, again, from the Project Management Institute. This is real world industry research and statistics. 82% of key stakeholders say that they manage change frequently. So that's 82%, right? Managing change frequently. But in the same study, only 37% of project managers agree. 37% of project managers see that stakeholders are managing their change management effectively and frequently. So there's this gaping divide in perspectives. So what does this say about the relationship between stakeholders and project managers? Well, for me, what it does is it tells us how heavy stakeholders are actually managing change, but behind the scenes of our projects, which is what the project managers see. They only see a small percentage of the amount of change management that stakeholders are engaged in. So the rest of it, they're dealing with in their own organisation, on their own other projects that they're working on. But again, what's going on in their own world, and they are real forces at play, and they can directly influence their performance in our interaction on our projects. So what we need to do is we need to look behind the veil of what's going on in their world and take it seriously, because it does have direct consequences. We need to understand them deeply. Now, I just want to talk to you about I want to talk to you about a project that I was working on some years ago. And it was a road realignment project, and it went right through some land, right? So we had to go and purchase the land in order to build this road. But when I went to this organisation to, embark on the normal kinds of negotiations that you go through, land dealing negotiations that you go through with organisations, once I've engaged in that, we thought, with the land dealings manager that I was working with, that this was just going to be another routine process that we go through for purchasing land. But there I was faced with a non-physical barrier. This was when we approached them. We explained everything that we knew about the project. At a very early stage of the project, by the way. This wasn't just before construction. This was many, many years before construction, in the early stages of development, when we were just trying to identify what option we wanted to go with. But yeah, again, I was faced with the cold shoulder. I wasn't getting any joy after the initial interaction. It was so hard for me to continue the negotiation, and it wasn't obvious for any reason why. But eventually, after a lot of painstaking work to try and find the right person to talk to within that organisation, I got there. And what was unpacked, what was discovered, was that this organisation was over, and the people who I was interacting with were overly concerned, well, not overly, but probably justifiably concerned with the fact that we were taking parcels of land from their organisation that depended on land surface area, in order to keep their business viable. And this sort of purchasing of land was happening around the state. And so these people that I was dealing with and negotiating with had real, tangible, existential concerns that there was a threat to their livelihood. And of course, none of this was apparent up front, but we had to dig deep to find out what these reasons were. And then we could unlock the communication barrier that we had. And then afterwards, we elevated it up to a more strategic level, where action was actually going to be taken, a high-level negotiation over these issues across the state, which then freed up the negotiation with our stakeholder in order to continue allow the project to continue to move forward. And it worked out a whole lot better because of that. Now, third thing that I want to bring to your attention, the third key principle to this, is that the Project Management Institute, another survey that they've done, is saying that 90% of key stakeholders think that they frequently listen. So 90% of your stakeholders think that they've got the message and they've got it loud and clear. They're able to go away and get on with their side of the bargain and carry on and move forward. But really, only 46% of project managers actually agree with them that they are listening. So what does this mean on our projects? Well, it means that there's a communication chasm where stakeholders are thinking that they've got it and they know where they stand, they know where the project is going, they know, they're aware of everything that they need to know through the communication that they're participating with the project manager or the engineer. But this stat begs the question, really, doesn't it? When 46% of project managers, I say half of all project managers actually agree that they do listen. Now, that's a huge communication gap. And I've got another example. I don't know if we've got no time at all for that. So I've got other case studies that I'd like to share with you, but unfortunately, we're right at the end of it. I just want to quickly stream through some of the other key principles. We talk about how to avoid stealth disasters. This is about not taking what stakeholders say at face value, but giving yourself the credibility and the authority to be able to push back and challenge on some of those issues. And we give you the tools and techniques to be able to do that with class and respect. And then we show you how to show your stakeholders the path less painful. So it's helping them in their own decision-making processes. And then what we do is we go through a how-to, and this isn't a workshop environment right at the end of this introduction. And some of the things that we go through is, we've got this high-value engagement model that we work through how to, be more highly effective in your interactions with stakeholders in the moment, on reflection, and moving forward. And we give you some steps that we work through. We go through. We've got a worksheet here that we work through as well. Which this one's called the Stakeholder Influencer: how to unpack the initial conversation. And then we work through the high value engagement model again. We've got steps like we call it the attention grabber. We've got how to push situational awareness to them. We've got other tips and tricks like how to anchor their loss and leverage on that, or potential losses, and then how to guarantee execution. And then we go through a bit of some work that you can take away straight away tomorrow or today in your projects, so you can get up and running immediately. So it's highly effective, implementable work that you can use straight away. So where to next? Well, first of all, I want to thank you and congratulate you for making your way through this presentation. I'm going to try and keep these down to 20 minutes. I'm doing another one next Thursday, and I'm planning on doing one every Thursday for another 7 weeks to go through that model that I showed you right at the front of this session. If you want to get to talk more about this with me, then contact me on that email just down there on the left-hand side. What else can I? Subscribe to my newsletter in LinkedIn, where I aim to always get at least one article out a week, and there you'll also see my up-and-coming events as well. So feel free. Reach out to me in whichever way you prefer to. Love to continue the conversations on this. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And well, that's it from me. And all the best. Happy implementation.